I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Welcome to today's edition of Just the Truth. Glad to have you join me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Former South Carolina Governor and UN Ambassador Nikki Haley has been saying that she's the most electable of all the GOP presidential candidates, according to a new Fox News poll. She may not be exaggerating her potential. We'll do a deep dive into the latest Fox News poll numbers just released. And in another Fox News poll, more than a month after Hamas launched a horrific attack on Israel, most voters blamed the terrorist group for the war in Gaza and continue to side with the Israelis over the Palestinians. More details on this a little later as well. New Jersey will drop a requirement that candidates for public office sign an oath that includes the phrase, "So help me God," in filing paperwork for their candidacy. And people wonder why our country is falling out of favor with God. Senator John Kennedy strikes again. The nominee for a district judge in Oklahoma struggled during her nomination hearing on Wednesday to define basic terms for orders issued regularly by judges. When do you think these potential judges, many of them, in this case, the lady had been a judge for 20 years, was going to be advanced to a higher circuit court position, maybe an appeals court. We'll get into that in just a minute. But when do you think they're going to understand that Senator John Kennedy is going to be asking them questions? This is another good one. 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. You can leave a voice message. Your comments are welcome on the Truth text line, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. So let's start with the 2024 presidential election. It still looks most likely to be a close race. The two primary contests are currently blowouts, with Joe Biden expected to easily win the Democrat nomination, Donald Trump expected to easily win the GOP nomination. Not surprisingly, President Donald Trump leads the GOP nomination race with the backing of a record of 62% of Republican primary voters in a new Fox News survey released just today. That translates to a roughly 50-point gap between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, who has 14% in this poll, Nikki Haley, who has 11%, Vivek Ramaswamy, 7%, Chris Christie, 3%, and Asa Hutchinson, 1%. They trail even further. Senator Tim Scott suspended his campaign mid-survey, so the 3% that he received was reallocated to his supporters' second-choice candidates. Before that reallocation, DeSantis was with 13%, Haley had 10%. In addition to Scott, others exiting since the October survey started. Larry Elder, my colleague, I saw Larry in Miami last week when we were down covering the debate. Will Hurd dropped out. Perry Johnson, Mike Pence, of course, dropped out. Fox News says these departures failed to change the race given how little backing they had. Among Democrat primary voters, President Joe Biden leads with 72%, well ahead of Marianne Williamson, who only has 13%, and the newly announced Minnesota Representative Dean Phillips with 3%. Yet Biden's job performance rating stands at 40% approval and 59% disapproval. That matches his record low from July of 2022. More than twice as many strongly disapprove as strongly approve. That was 43% strongly disapproving, 17% strongly approved. Last month, 41% approved and 58% disapproved. His numbers not improving very much at all. Disapproval of Biden is at an all-time high among men. 63% of men just do not believe he's capable of doing the job. Voters under the age of 45 with 62% disapproval. Hispanics, 60%. And voters with a college degree, 57%. Black voters, only 41% of African Americans disapprove of Joe Biden. Most of these groups are key to his reelection, yet they may be open to an alternative. Just look at Nikki Haley's inroads, as Fox News pointed those out as well. Biden's ratings spell electoral trouble, as he's currently behind the Republican in each of the matchup. Trump, he trails with 50 to 46%. DeSantis, 50 to 45%. They have statistically insignificant 4 or 5 point advantages over Biden. Last month, Biden was up by 1 point over Trump and trailed DeSantis by just 2. Meanwhile, now this is the important or the thing that is a bit surprising. Nikki Haley has an 11-point lead when matched against Joe Biden, 52 to 41%. This is an improvement on her 4-point lead last month. So when Nikki Haley claims that she's the most electable, what do you think? Are you buying this? Love to get your comments on the Truth text line. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Nikki Haley's margin against Biden is better than Trump's among groups Democrats need to hold. Women, for example, voters under the age of 30, those 65 and over, the independents, college graduates, moderates, suburban women. She leads Biden among independents by 43 points compared to Trump's 16-point advantage. And we know how important independents have been pretty much in the last decade in presidential politics. Among college graduates, Biden's 5-point edge over Trump becomes a 9-point deficit against Nikki Haley. Republican Darren Shaw, who conducted the Fox News survey with Democrat Chris Anderson, said none of our previous data have shown an electability edge on either side. But in this poll, at this time, Nikki Haley can make the case she is best positioned to win back the White House. Wow. Wow. You agree? The question for Haley remains whether that's enough to move her out of third place in the presidential nomination. You got to get the GOP nomination before you advanced, of course, to the fall. So it doesn't matter what a poll says. One notable number for Donald Trump, according to Fox, he hits 50% against Biden, which he previously had never done in a Fox News survey going back to October of 2015. Plus, Trump receives record support among groups that Biden needs to win re-election. Compared to the final Fox News pre-election matchup in October of 2020, Trump has made gains among independents, up 21 points there. Blacks, he's up 15 points there. Hispanics, up 13 points. Suburban voters, up 8. And men, he's up by 4, an additional 4%. Despite Biden's low approval, other Democrats tested in head-to-head against Trump just really don't do any better at improving on the president's marks by a couple of points. Trump's advantage, according to Fox, is within the survey's margin of sampling error in hypothetical ballots against Kamala Harris. Trump is up 5 points. California Governor Gavin Newsom, he beats him by 4. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, 2. And West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, he would beat him by 1 point. This is the first time the poll has offered potential 5-way presidential ballots and finds that while third-party candidates receive substantial support, they hurt Biden and Trump almost equally. Biden garners 35% to Trump's 41%, while independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. takes 15%, and independent candidate Cornel West and Green Party candidate Jill Stein, how many times has she ran for president, by the way? That's an interesting. I need to look that up. She gets 3% each with sharing that with the Green Party. The race looks about the same when Joe Manchin is included, according to Fox. In that scenario, it's Biden 35%, Trump 40%, Kennedy 13%, Manchin 5%, and Stein gets 4%. In both cases, 76% of Democrats back Joe Biden, 78% of Republicans support Donald Trump. Mr. Shaw says, while most people have understandably been focused on how third-party options affect the major party candidates, the level of support itself is notable. He says more than one voter in 5 is currently going rogue, more than for Ross Perot in 1992, John Anderson in 1980 or George Wallace back in 1968. Shaw says it's a clear indictment with the leading Republican and Democrat candidates. 39% of voters say they are more likely to participate in the Democrat primary and caucus in their state next year, and 45% say the Republican primary. That's a 6-point gap in the widest seen all year. Trump's personal favorability ratings is still underwater by 12 points. 44% of people view him favorably, 56% unfavorable. Still, that's his most positive in over a year, according to Fox. Biden is in negative territory by an even larger 18 points. Remember, Trump was 12, Biden 18. That's unchanged since September, according to Fox. More Republicans, 64%, than Democrats, 59%, say that they are extremely interested in the 2024 presidential election, which makes sense because the only action is on the GOP side with what was a crowded field that is slowly narrowing. When extremely and very are combined, equal numbers of Republicans, 84% actually, and Democrats, 83%, are interested. Bad news for Kamala Harris. She gets her worst marks yet, as 38% approve, I should say only 38%, and 59% disapprove of the jobs she's doing. The poll was conducted November the 10th through the 13th under the joint direction of Beacon Research and Shaw and Company Research. The Fox News poll includes interviews with 1,100 registered voters nationwide. It's official now. The 2024 election could get off to a rather embarrassing start for President Joe Biden. The state has confirmed that it plans to keep its first in the nation status by holding its presidential primaries on January the 23rd, a week before South Carolina's Democrat primary. Politico reported this last night. Under an overhaul of the primary calendar spearheaded by Joe Biden, South Carolina was supposed to be the first. Biden kept his name off the ballot in New Hampshire in anticipation of the state violating the Democrat National Committee's calendar. And while Democrats are organizing a write-in campaign, he could still lose to either Marianne Williamson or Representative Dean Phillips, who just filed as a candidate. Both of their names will be on the ballot in New Hampshire. Under New Hampshire law, the Secretary of State has the authority to set the primary date. State law requires the date to either be the second Tuesday in March or a week before any other state that holds a similar primary, whichever is earlier. New Hampshire Secretary of State David Scanlon said at a news conference yesterday that they will move forward with their plan and abide by their state law.
You told us back in September that you expected this primary would be in noncompliance with the DNC. Did their warnings, did their threats kind of fuel the fire here?
Their threats were, from my perspective, meaningless. I mean, New Hampshire has a tradition and New Hampshire has a law, and both the tradition and the law were going to be followed no matter what. Now, the DNC will decide whether they are going to sanction New Hampshire somehow because we're not complying with their calendar. It might mean that they restrict the number of delegates that New Hampshire can have at the National Convention. Maybe they won't allow any delegates. But delegates will be awarded to those candidates that qualify with, depending on the percentage of the vote that they receive. And I would expect that those delegates will go to the convention. And whether they get let in the door or not is a different story, but that'll be a story for you to cover when that happens.
It'll be interesting to see if New Hampshire delegates show up at the Democrat National Convention next summer and are refused to be credentialed. Biden and other Democrats had said they wanted a more diverse state than New Hampshire at the top of the primary calendar. So that's why they came to South Carolina, where South Carolina giving credit as pushing Biden over the top 4 years ago after our only Democrat congressman, James Clyburn, endorsed Joe Biden just prior to the South Carolina primary. Mr. Scanlon said that they shouldn't use racial diversity as a cudgel to rearrange the calendar. Diversity is not the real issue at play in this debate. At stake is who gets to determine the nominee of a party, the elites on the National Party Committee by controlling the nominating calendar, or the voters, he said. Biden finished fifth in New Hampshire in 2020, behind Senator Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg, Senator Amy Klobuchar, and Senator Elizabeth Warren, but scored, as we mentioned, a huge win in South Carolina just a few weeks later because of James Clyburn's support. An update on Israel. Fox News correspondent Trey Yinks reported about his visit inside Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital yesterday. And as part of a special report, Trey walked around the hospital and found reported Hamas weapons and ammunition inside. It's been rumored, it's been suspected since the war started, October the 7th, that Hamas has used hospitals and schools and other public places like this, knowing that Israel would be hesitant to take action against them. Some of them were found inside of some of weapons, and some of the ammunition was found inside of MRI rooms at the hospital. Hamas literature was also found in the hospital. Here's his report, courtesy of Fox News.
Nearly 3 weeks into the ground operation, we are with the Israeli military in the dark of night, headed into the heart of Gaza City. The Israelis have been fighting block by block and street by street against Hamas. They recently gained control of the Al-Shati camp and the Al-Shifa hospital. Stay with us. You can hear the Israelis are engaged in gun battles here with Hamas. Right now we're in Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. It was raided overnight by Israeli forces who were looking for Hamas infrastructure and weapons. They are still searching at this hour for the tunnels that they say are beneath the hospital, but they did recover weapons they say belong to Hamas in an MRI room here on one side of the facility. And when you look behind the machine, you see the weapons and ammunition the Israelis say Hamas had ready to go so that they could continue engaging Israeli forces in the heart of Gaza City.
What we have here is professional Hamas literature, all of it with the official insignia of Hamas. And we have here really a mix of tactical brochures for commanders, how to attack a tank, and what type of ammunition to use in what kind of situation.
The Israelis did not show us any of the tunnels they say are underneath the hospital. However, they did show us weapons in the radiology building. They also say they've learned more tonight about the hostages being held inside Gaza from the raid that is being conducted at Al-Shifa hospital. I also questioned the Israeli military about the criticism they've faced about raiding a medical facility. We'll have more of their answers tomorrow.
Meanwhile, yesterday, the United States allowed a United Nations Security Council resolution calling for pauses in the fighting within Gaza to pass despite a lack of condemnation for Hamas. 15 members of the Security Council passed the resolution on Wednesday. It calls for a ceasefire for a, quote, sufficient number of days in the Gaza Strip between Israel and Hamas. The resolution also calls for unconditional release of hostages taken by Hamas during the October 7th terrorist attack. 12 members of the council voted in favor of the resolution, while the U.S., Russia, and Britain, who have veto power, abstained from the vote yesterday. The resolution doesn't include a condemnation of Hamas's actions. The Security Council attempted to pass a resolution 4 times before the council was successful. Also, members of Parliament in the United Kingdom, House of Commons, voted against an amendment demanding its government call for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. The amendment was added to the government's legislative agenda for 2024 yesterday, but wasn't passed by members of Parliament. According to Reuters, the Scottish National Party introduced the amendment, which read, "We call on the government to join with the international community in urgently pressing all parties to agree to an immediate ceasefire." Back in the States, a multi-millionaire tech mogul and his wife are helping to bankroll the groups behind the pro-Palestinian protests that occurred in wake of the October 7th terror attack. Neville Roy Singham is a U.S.-born entrepreneur. He's made millions after founding and selling an IT consulting firm called ThoughtWorks, and his wife, Jody Evans, the co-founder of the left-wing anti-war group Code Pink, have been the primary funders of a group called the People's Forum since 2017, according to a report by the Free Press Francesca Block. The group bills itself as a movement incubator for working class and marginalized communities and nurtures the next generation of visionaries and organizers who believe that through collective action, a new world is possible. Now, let that sink in. Some of this, an incubator for working class and marginalized community, and they're encouraging them to support a group of terrorists. They're encouraging them to protest the United States support of Israel, and they're considered visionaries. The People's Forum, according to the report, has played a role in organizing several pro-Palestine protests since Hamas's attack, in which it's known that the terrorist group killed at least 1,200 Israelis and took over 200 hostages from the southern Israel into Gaza, and still have those hostages. The protests have been met with resistance as most Americans support Israel. More than a month after Hamas launched its attack, most voters blamed the terrorist group for the war in Gaza and continue to side with the Israelis over the Palestinians, according to another Fox News survey that was released yesterday. In the war, 66% of voters side with the Israelis, as 22% support the Palestinians. That's about where sentiment was when the war started just over a month ago. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. You can leave us a quick voice message, or your comments are welcome on the Truth text line. We'll include them as time permits. People wonder why God is allowing our country to experience some tough times. It's because we have slowly removed his presence from our daily lives, and the war on religion continues, the latest being in New Jersey. We'll get into the details on that in just a moment. Let me first talk with you about a life-changing moment that could happen to you. And all you have to do is call 864-252-4925 and set your initial consultation with PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Over 3 years ago now, I started my journey with PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. I was introduced to Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team in the Greenville office of PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. I lost 30 pounds pretty quickly, and over 3 years later, I've been able to maintain that. And that's the key to the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition program. This is not a fad diet. It's based on the science of nutrition, and that's why it works. That's why I have people who text me and email me and tell me how PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition and Dr. Ashley Lucas has literally changed their lives. Listeners who have lost 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 135 pounds. If you want to lose weight for the last time, then let me encourage you to start right now. And some people use the excuse, well, it's the holidays. Thanksgiving's just next week, and then Christmas. Well, this is a great time to go ahead and get started. Call them today, 864-252-4925. You can visit them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. So New Jersey is going to drop a requirement that candidates for public office sign an oath that includes the phrase, "So help me God," in filing paperwork for the candidacy. Lauren Zyrick, acting director of the state's Division of Elections, said in a memo to all county clerks, the petitioner has the option to make a solemn affirmation or declaration in lieu of an oath, she said. The October 24th memo came after Bergen County resident 70-year-old James Tozone, who hopes to run for Congress as a libertarian, filed a federal lawsuit against the Secretary of State, claiming that New Jersey forces people who run for office to swear a religious oath. In his lawsuit, Tozon, a resident of Washington Township in New Jersey, claimed that his conscience would not let him swear to God, according to newspaper accounts. The suit states, by requiring plaintiff to swear "so help me God" in order to run for public office without a secular option, the Secretary of State has inflicted and will continue to inflict irreparable harm upon Mr. Tucson, the suit says. Zyrick's memo states that in the affirmation or declaration, the words "so help me God" shall be omitted. Tucson dropped his lawsuit this week. Again, is it any wonder why we're being faced with some of the worst times in our nation's history? When you take God out of the equation, you can't expect God to bless you. Your comments are welcome on the Truth text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. So are people just nuts? Listen to this latest story. A FedEx tractor trailer was blocked by several cars in Memphis, Tennessee. At the intersection, as dozens of people broke into the truck, they broke the lock off and started grabbing boxes. These are people's shipments. Could be some of yours. Started grabbing the boxes and putting them in their cars and leaving. Video from the scene shows that multiple people were running through parked cars in the road toward the FedEx truck as the driver attempted to escape from those who were carrying his packages. Multiple men allegedly used an unknown tool to open the safety latch on the truck's sealed back doors and took numerous packages, the driver said, according to the police report. When police officers arrived, multiple vehicles seen recklessly speeding away. The Memphis Police Department said that they were able to detain several people who were caught in an apartment complex just down the road, just a block or so away from where this happened. Memphis police said they received multiple calls from various apartment dwellers, people who lived in this neighborhood, saying that there were 3 men sitting in a white Chevrolet that smelled like marijuana. Of course, there's drugs involved. After checking the car, the security detail reported to the police that the men admitted to taking items from the FedEx truck. The men told the arriving officers the stolen items were left in the street, so they just picked them up. Of course they did. They're innocent. The boxes were in the street. So they helped out. They picked them up. According to the report, some of the items recovered from the vehicle included 4 kicker speakers, a vehicle headlight, a 14-piece pot and pan set, and 3 DirecTV cable boxes. FedEx responded to the theft, saying that the safety of its employees and customers' packages are top priority. So is FedEx going to have to start having armed drivers in their trucks? I mean, people literally, if they would get a job and make the money to buy their own things, they wouldn't have to be blocking a FedEx truck and robbing it. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your comments are welcome. On the Truth text line, Tony writes, Joey, towns are not only the ones telling people not to fly the American flag. My HOA elected officials have fined me for flying mine on my front porch. They call it offensive. This was in reference to a story that I talked about yesterday, I think it was, where the Supreme Court ruled that a township could not prevent someone from flying the American flag with the thin blue line, recognizing support of law enforcement. Carol writes, any changes in our flag would be defacing it. Susan from Hartwell, this in reference to the story on the woke Macy's Thanksgiving Parade coming up. She said, I quit watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade 10 years ago for the same reason I quit watching the Tournament of Roses Parade, because they've gone from showing 100% of the floats with the commentary about them coming off camera to the camera being on the 2 news anchors 90% of the time and showing fewer of the floats. I want to see the floats for myself, Susan says, not watch 2 babbling heads describing them. Robert writes, Joey, when are you coming back on air? The other morning show is lame. And Morning in Anderson doesn't start until 7 a.m. No morning show with Tara. She's running down Nikki Haley, doing the liberals' job for them. Well, Robert, thank you. I appreciate you missing me. I hope you're listening to Just the Truth podcast as well. And our encouraging text for today from an anonymous texter says, the mind is everything. What you think becomes, you become. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. God bless. Thank you. Jennifer emailed, your podcast listeners might be unaware that the northern border is of great concern also, not only to New Yorkers, but to all of America. Illegals are coming into the North Country from Canada in droves, and I hear that we give them a valid New York driver's license to welcome them. They can go wherever they want in America then. They cannot be questioned by police. So I've been thinking for a while now that maybe your southern listeners need to know that they have more than the southern border to worry about. There's the northern border. Well, Jennifer, thank you for that. I'm not sure that that's encouraging, but it's something that we certainly need to know. 864-477-5639. You can leave a voice message. You can also leave your send your text message as well. And email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Senator John Kennedy strikes again. Don't you just love this guy? Look, if you're wanting to become a judge and you know you're going to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee with the senator from Louisiana asking the questions, don't you think by now, after he has tripped up a few nominees over the past couple of years, that you need to be prepared? How many times have we seen Senator Kennedy render a court nominee speechless? And he did it again. And this one is classic. Portions of the Day Show brought to you by Discounted Appliance Warehouse. If you're replacing a broken appliance, or maybe you're just upgrading your entire kitchen because you've remodeled or something, when you're ready for your appliances, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to start using them, do you? That's why you need to go to my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. I promise you, it's worth the short drive. They never have any shipping or supply issues. They have over 1,500 appliances in stock. You can buy it today and use it today quite often. I love the story of a couple in Anderson who emailed me that they had gone over to buy appliances. They were traveling back to Anderson and literally got the phone call on the way that the delivery truck was on its way. It almost beat them back to their house. That's how Jeff and Johnny and the whole team at Discounted Appliance Warehouse treat you, just like family. I promise you, if you want the best deal on the appliances and you want to be treated like family, you need to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Find them online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. So a nominee for a district judgeship in Oklahoma struggled during her nomination hearing yesterday to define basic terms for orders issued on a regular basis by judges. Sarah Hill is her name. She's nominated by President Joe Biden to be the district judge for the Northern District of Oklahoma, and she was grilled by Senator John Kennedy on the Senate Judiciary Committee about basic legal and constitutional terms and definitions, a practice that has become well known for him. Again, in recent months, after several nominees have struggled to pass his test, you would think that you'd study a little bit. You'd be ready for it. When Kennedy asked Ms. Hill the difference between a stay order and an injunction order, two orders that are frequently issued by federal courts, Hill stumbled through her answers. A stay order would prohibit, an injunction would restrain the parties from taking action. A stay order, I'm not sure I can give you that, she said. She stumbled. An injunction, just so you know, is an order from the court that prohibits a party in a case from performing or ordering a specified act as the case continues, either temporarily or permanently. I mean, I thought everybody knew what an injunction was. Surely a judge would, or someone who wants to be a judge. And a stay order is issued to stop the legal proceedings of a case in court. Now, Kennedy wasn't finished with that, though. He went on to ask Ms. Hill what collateral estoppel is. Listen to the exchange.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to each of you. Ms. Hill, what is collateral estoppel?
Collateral estoppel. I think collateral estoppel. Well, Senator, I will say that my 20 years of practice has primarily been dealing with issues relating to criminal law or relating to other areas of the law.
Yes,
and
ma'am. If you don't know, just tell me.
I certainly do know collateral estoppel. I'm finding that the bright lights of the moment are making it hard for me to recall it.
Okay, so you don't recall it. Okay.
Why didn't she just say that? I mean, when he asked her, if you don't know, why didn't she just admit she didn't know, rather than continuing down the path of trying to convince him that she really did know, but she couldn't, just because of all the lights on her, she couldn't come up with an answer. Carrie Severino, a constitutional lawyer and president of the Judicial Crisis Network, commented on X about the exchange by saying, "How can an individual who wants to be a federal judge possibly not know this?" She added, "Stays and injunctions come before district judges all the time. This is not a trick question." I think anybody could have answered that one. Severino noted that at the end of Kennedy's probe, committee chair Senator Dick Durbin even congratulated Hill for passing the Kennedy bar exam. To talk about grading on a curve. Yeah, that is for sure. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails with the most up-to-date news. Thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Keep your comments coming via the Truth text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. And keep your emails coming, too. We'll be back tomorrow. Until the next time, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.